Before I start the review, I should point out that this story arc of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is where most Western audiences started from. Due to the fact that Part 1 and 2 are not translated onto book, the book series for Western audiences started here at Part 3. So for those who are started on Part 3, go read Part 1 and 2 already. Now taking place in 1988 in Japan, we meet Jotaro Kujo sitting in a prison cell due to his violent actions. He insists to stay in the cell, due to being possessed by an evil spirit resulting in his grandfather Joseph to come to him. Joseph and his friend Muhammad Abdul revealed to him that the spirit is his stand and forces him to fully unleash it. Joseph knows that Dio is back and has gained the ability of a stand as well. Jotaro's mother's stand is killing her, so he must go to Egypt and stop him before he destroys the world and to save his mother. On the way, Jotaro has Dio's minions ready to fight him on every corner, in every town, all stand use, and can be anyone. Jotaro must learn all about his stand before he gets to Egypt, and most of all discover that monstrous new power the vampire Dio now has. And that's pretty much the whole story, and it's all told in the first volume. No big twists or any big reveals, well, except for Dio's stand. Just a straightforward story. A straightforward story can be good, but after reading right off the back of Part 1 and 2, the story will feel a bit lacking, and I like a good story. Well, first I should explain what on earth a stand is. The Ripple is gone, but Joseph does use it once or twice, but it does absolutely nothing. So I'll do a quick Stand 101 for you. One who stands by me is the way they pretty much got their name. Those with unusually strong spiritual power and determination can develop stands. Only a stand user can see other stands. Only a stand can fight another stand as well. And any damage to the stand is transmitted to the user, and vice versa. This is served as a way for defeating most of the encountered opponents through this series. So, kill the user, you kill the stand. There is a ton more to say about them, but the best way is just to read the manga because each stand is different in terms of strength, power, etc. Now to look at the main characters that we follow during the story. There are about 5 to 6 notable good guys and just one bad guy to talk about, so I'll just talk about them. There is a stand used to every name of a tarot card, an Egyptian god, and a few musical references. But we'll just stick with the 6 because sadly most of them are not that memorable. Jotaro Kujo is our main Joestar for this story. He's a cold, serious, cool kind of guy who's always getting into trouble and actually has girls all over him, but he doesn't care. At first seems to be an arsehole the way he tells his mother to F off, but when she's in trouble he is the first one to go out and save her. He's a much different Joestar than we're used to. He might be lacking a funny side, but he's a cool guy that carries the Joestar bloodline. His stand is Star Platinum, an extremely powerful and fast stand. He brings back over-the-top punching, which I missed so much, and even makes the punching better. Joseph Joestar is back again, but now he's an old man. But his Ripple training is keeping him young, so he can go on for one more adventure with his grandson. Joseph takes a bit of a backseat in this story, and only adds to fighting here and there. He also adds some advice, but it seems to be the other guys that assist Jotaro more. Purple Hermit is his stand, and it gives him the ability to transmit images from afar onto film, or even onto TVs. He can transmit Hamon ripples through the vines, and uses the vines to extend, reach, and grab objects. I think this could have been a really cool stand if it had more screen time, but sadly it comes off rather weak. Muhammad Abdul, a fortune teller born in Cairo, Egypt. He was also one of the first to meet Dio, barely escaping with his life and sanity. He's a rather serious fellow, who wears his heart on his sleeve, and is a good source of knowledge, extremely dedicated, willing to die for his comrades, advisor of sorts, and also a very powerful warrior. Most of us say he's the only JoJo character that ever died and the fans demanded to come back. Even the Zeppelins were demanded back after they died, and I wanted them back. But he comes back only to die again, so I think the author just gave in to the fans there. Magician's Red is a big red chicken that can manipulate fire. Abdul was actually born with this stand and learned to control its powers. This stand is useful many times throughout their journey. Norikai Kakiyon is said to be a cool looking from the outside, but inside he's a warm and loyal fighter. he will support his comrades actively. Aside from this, he fights for what is right. After the battle with Jotaro, he realizes the mistake he made and being used by Dio as a pawn, and to make up for it, he joins Jotaro on their quest to destroy Dio, even at the expense of his own life. He's one of the few characters that goes through the most character development for this story. He becomes confident, and then regains the loss of his pride enough to engage Dio on a one-on-one fight to prove that he's no longer under his control. Hierophant Green is an elastic and remote stand, capable of scouting and performing actions from far distances. Kakyoin has wielded this stand since birth as well. It's able to unravel at the moment's notice, able to avoid damage, and the main attack is a stand to emit emeralds and shoot them rapidly in multiple successions, like bullets. But with all this, he is a very weak at hand-to-hand combat. Jean-Pierre Polnareff from Paris, France, searches for the man that killed his sister. His stand powers are what attracted Dio to him in the first place, the same with Kakyoin. After a short battle, Polnareff joins the Joestar group in their quest to destroy their nemesis. He got a shot at Jay Gal, a man with 2 right hands, and the murderer of his sister, and successfully avenged her death. I find he has the most character development of everyone, seeing how his best friends at the end of the story are Abdul and Iggy, but he hated them at the beginning, and is to go through the tragedy of losing them. He at times might be the comic relief, but I think of him as a loyal ally. Silver Chariot is a very powerful stand. All of its attacks are destructive in nature or assist him in battle. Its key skills are attacking enemies with a barrage of sword slashes and thrusts, parrying attacks aimed at it, and shedding its armor away to become faster. Last of the team is Iggy, a dog from New York who came halfway through the story to assist Jotaro and the gang, but is very unhelpful at first. But as the story progresses, he warms up to them and even comes to their aid in the final fights. He might seem to be a simple dog, but like everyone else, he shows a great loyalty to his friends. The Fool is the stand of sand. Being made of sand, it can be immune to physical damage and able to change its form slightly using the sand. The Fool is frighteningly powerful how it will bombard an enemy with waves of sand. Finally, for the only villain worth talking about in this story, Dio. What else can I say about him after Phantom Blood? Until the last part of the story, he remains a shadow villain, and you rarely see his face, but when he bursts out of the coffin, you know he's back. He doesn't show off his vampire powers, but shows off his over-the-top stand, the world. Normally I would hold off telling you what it can do, but there's been so many YouTube videos showing off the world, though, that it's not a secret anymore. The world can stop time, which is unfair, overpowered, and fitting for the main villain. Not much else to say, really. We know Dio from part 1, and in this he just controls people from the shadows. But we do see how people are drawn to him and follow his every word. Literally. Okay, I'm going to wrap this one up now. But it is hard to say how I feel about this JoJo story. Since I like plot, and this has little in terms of character development and plot twists, but I could nitpick a lot on this. I think what gets to me the most is just pointless fighting. I mean, that's it. The anime pretty much shows off all the main fights, and the manga is fight after fight. At least part 1 and 2 had flashbacks and training chapters. Jotaro is a cool character, if not pointlessly rude to his mum for no reason. Joseph makes me sad because he was so badass in part 2 and now is a backseat character. Dio only appears at the end, so I don't get my fill of Dio. But this is me dissecting it. So you could say on a big scale, it could have been better. But if you look at it for what it is, it seems a lot better. It's a story about a boy fighting evil to save his mother, an old man living up to his grandfather, a man avenging his sister, and a group of men who are stopping evil, and finally putting an end to Dio. Well, I hope you don't moan at me too much for that little rant, and stay with me for the next one because part 4 is interesting. We'll visit the quiet town of Morio, meet Josuke Higashikata, the son of Joseph, and we find out what dark secrets this little town holds. Next up, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable.